it was Bryn Bridenthal who told me, Bryn used to do press at Geffen, and Bryn and I got along really well. And she said, I got some scuttlebutt for you. And I said, oh, really? What's that? Said, Howard Kaufman, who managed Whitesnake, had been in to see David Geffen to ask for a renegotiation of the contract for Whitesnake. And I said, oh, how'd he do? I mean, they deserve it. They've just sold 5 million albums. And Bryn looked at me and said, nah, David never renegotiates a contract, ever. And I said, oh. And she said, what was worse was he had already been in and asked and been refused, and had come back with David Coverdale thinking that David Geffen would not refuse his star. And I said, oh my God. He got his knees taken out by Geffen in front of David Coverdale. That's embarrassing. And she said, well, yeah, and Tim Collins came in and tried to do the same thing with the Aerosmith contract. And he got shown the door too. So what did that tell me when Bryn told me that? Because obviously I was thinking along similar lines too. It told me that you can't ask David, you have to tell him, okay? So I had a birthday party for my then wife at the Chardonnay, and I invited Eddie Rosenblatt and his wife to be there. And I sat next to Eddie, and I counted the glasses of wine, and then I turned around to Eddie and I said, Eddie, don't shoot the messenger, but I want you to take a message back to David Geffen. You can tell David that if he doesn't renegotiate the Guns N' Roses contract, I am going to take the band out on tour, and we are not going to deliver the Use Your Illusion album. And I said, well, we'll have a great time. The band will make pots of money, and you won't have a record. So he needs to do that. He left soon after that. I got a phone call from Geffen. I think it was a day or two later. And he demanded that I meet him at the Chardonnay for lunch. And he was there before I was, which was uncommon for David. And as I'm coming up to the table, he starts screaming at me in the restaurant. I will not be bullied. You will not do this. Da 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 da. There was an actress sitting right behind me. Her name was, she had a thing called, I think it was called Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Her name was Seymour or something.
Stephanie Seymour?
Not Stephanie Seymour, Jane Seymour.
Not Stephanie, Jane Seymour, forgive me.
Yeah.
GNR on the brain, obviously. Jane Seymour, yes. Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. Beautiful woman, yeah.
And David is screaming and yelling at the top of his voice. And I'm aware of this woman just sinking down in her chair like this. Because this blast of negativity is going past me and into her. And then he got up, stormed out of the restaurant, left me sitting there. We didn't break bread. We didn't order anything to eat. We had no meat. He just stormed off. Which was after I'd looked at him and said, David, I mean what I say. We're going on tour unless you renegotiate this. We're going on tour anyway. But if you don't renegotiate, I'm going to put things on sale.
So we could set a temper tantrum in front of Jane Seymour?
Oh, well, that was part of David. That was part of David's
charm.
No, his methodology. I mean,
fair enough.
He scared a lot of people. I mean, you know, I could tell you a number of things. But
well, there's a.
But anyway, so let me wind up the story here, so as you know.
Okay.
So I hear nothing from Tom, from Eddie Rosenblatt, from David Geffen, and I'm looking at the calendar and I'm going, fuck. They think I'm bluffing, and they're going to call it.
Mm.
And once I get to a certain date, I have to start pre-production for the tour. And I'm going, this is bad. So I put Alpine Valley on sale, and it sold out really fast. And that was my last shot across David's bow. I'm serious. We've got our first gig sold out. The other gigs are going to go up soon. And then I get a phone call, and every time I got a phone call from Geffen, it was always imperious. Be in Geffen's office, David's office at such and such a time, and it's like, I could be doing something else, be involved with some other thing. But if I got a phone call, it was always be in David's office at such a time. And I got one of those phone calls. Fuck, here we go. Another screaming match. So I drive up to Geffen. And I used to have this exercise. I don't need to do it these days, but I used to have this exercise. It's a breathing exercise where you breathe in, hold, breathe out, breathe in through the nose, hold up. And I went into his bathroom to do this exercise because I wanted to get myself settled, because I was anticipating another wonderful screaming match. And I go into his office and everybody is in there. Gersh, Kolodner, Zootout, Berman, the head of business affairs, a couple of other senior executives, and they were all standing in the bay window. And there was, opposite the bay window was a boarded up fireplace, and there was a small chair there. And Geffen was standing over to one side in front of his drinks table, and he indicated that I should sit on a small chair with all his executives standing, looking at me. And I'm looking at this situation, I'm going, what the fuck is going on here? And then David offers me a drink, playing the gracious host, and I'm getting even more disquiet, going, what is he up to? I passed on the drink, and he turned around and he said, okay, Alan, we're going to do the renegotiation. What do you want in the contract? And then I knew what the fucker had done to me. He'd ambushed me. The person who should be talking to Geffen about what goes in the contract is their fucking legal representative, not me. You don't put me on the spot and say, what do you want in the contract? And it was an act of pure fucking intimidation to have all those people in the room and then hit me with that.
How did you respond?
I responded by saying, it's simple, David. I want the best contract on Geffen Records. You can't have that. Oh, and why not? Because David Henley's got it, and he's got a favored nations clause. And I sat there for a moment and I said, you know, it's not a problem, David. We can have exactly the same contract as as Don Henley.
Don, yeah.
But this is what I'll do. Every time you account to Guns N' Roses, I'll go to the City National Bank and I'll get one uncirculated, pristine, perfect dollar bill, and I will personally send it to Don Henley. And Geffen just fucking glowered at me. And then suddenly said, okay, everybody out. And
everybody out.
All his executives left. And he said, you stay here, Alan. And when it was just he and I, he said, I'll do this. You'll get the contract. It'll be as good as Henley's. Have the lawyer call. And I went, thank you. And then he couldn't let me go with the victory without trying to undermine my sense of the moment.
Of course not.
He leaned into my ear and he said, you know, you might be the Brian Epstein of your day. Which was very disquieting because Brian Epstein died. And some people don't know whether it was a suicide or something else. And he made some bad decisions about merchandising along the way. Brian Epstein is not somebody who I would model myself on, you know.
Fair enough.
I looked out of that and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck did he mean by that? But anyway, here's the point. Goldstein didn't know I was there. He didn't know what I'd said to Eddie Rosenblatt. None of the band did. I did not want any loose lips sinking the ship. This was something that none of them knew about. So when they were busy plotting to get rid of me, Michelle Anthony, his girlfriend, and who was the band lawyer, and Goldstein, they had no idea that this was on the table. Okay, so I already had the commitment from Geffen that they were going to get the best contract on Geffen
Okay.
before I was fired. Now, I've heard some ridiculous stories about him claiming that he beat Geffen up in his own apartment. There is not a bigger pile of fucking horseshit than that. According to Tom Zutaut, who told me about it, when the lawyers told, because I obviously called GNR's lawyers and said, we're in for a renegotiation, you need to get with Geffen, you need to do this, da 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 da. They obviously told the band and Doug what had been done. Now what I'd done is I'd got somebody who never, ever had renegotiated an extant contract and made him agree to do it, and not only agree to do it, but make sure that it was as good as it could be, as good as Henley's. He had already made that commitment to me.
You know, it's interesting, and I'm glad you brought up the because there is a story that Doug told me about going to Geffen's house.
Oh,
And,
no, hold on.
okay.
What I heard from Zutau was typically, I mean, you know, Dougie could be some people would say he was very friendly and charming. I would sometimes say he was just obsequious. But the obsequious version of Doug went to Geffen and begged him to keep the contract in place, because if he did that, that would secure him looking after the band and getting the management position and keep everything on an even keel. That's what happened.
Okay. So, yeah. So, yes, there is a story. It's not, I hadn't heard your version of that before. So I know.
It's not my version,
Version.
it's the actuality.
Forgive me. Yes, the actuality of it. Doug's version, let's just say Doug's version that happened after the fact. But we mentioned.
By the way, one more thing. I never heard it myself. I only have it from third hand. But I was told that when they were out on that tour, that Axl had a code name for Doug.
I don't know that.
When he was on stage and they had walkie-talkies and things, and Axl wanted Doug. Do you know what he'd yell into the walkie-talkie?
The only name I know they referred to him as was Dougie. So I assume that was not it.
He used to call him Mr. Bullshit.
Oh, Mr. Bullshit. Okay.
Get me Mr. Bullshit. I want Mr. Bullshit now. Now, I never heard that, but I did hear it from more than one person.